Hello and welcome to the 41st episode of Growing Up Geek, the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia. My name is Brad and I am joined by my brother Rob.
Hi.
What's up, man? You're a little,
How you doing?
A little under the weather today.
Oh yeah, I think I mentioned on last week's episode I was feeling sick, and it came to fruition.
Yes,
as it would.
The fruits have ripened
this past weekend. Exactly,
the mucus fruit.
Yeah, so I'm past the worst of it, but right now my body's damaged from mucus and pain, and
you have to go drain your knee later.
Exactly, I gotta
lance your boils.
Sop up the seepage.
Ooh.
Oh, some nice alliteration there.
Well, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I know. I've been feeling okay. I think that both of us have done some particularly geeky things, though, with our past week.
Yes, we have.
You want to start?
Yeah, sure. This past weekend, I attended Renaissance Festival.
I've actually been to one of those before.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Well, I kind of enjoyed mine. I have done some acting before, and
Right. Did you get into it? Did you role play?
Well, yeah, sort of. This was the New York Renaissance Fair in Tuxedo.
Oh, geez, okay.
It was interesting, but I got to drink some mead, which is some honey-based alcoholic thing. I got to eat a big turkey leg, and
yeah, I actually just had chicken fingers and fries. So I didn't quite go full medieval, but yeah. I gotta say, it was a lot better than I expected. I kind of thought it'd be a few sort of shanty-looking shacks with ex Hot Topic employees walking around looking miserable. But actually, this was we come up over a grassy hill and you hear the frothing masses chanting for a joust that's going on, and you feel like you are walking into medieval times.
Yeah.
There was kind of a weird distinction that wasn't really made between medieval and pirates, because there was a lot of pirates that's walking around.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And I'm like, aren't you a little bit later maybe? But I had a good time, and actually I threw some knives. And I learned that if I were in medieval times, that should not be my profession. I should not be a hunter. My wife would starve. However, my wife threw an axe and landed it. Totally nailed it. I threw 5 knives and they all missed. It's oh. And then what's funny is the lady behind the counter goes, "Good job, my lord." I'm like, not really.
The best is, I think we went there when it was nearing the end, and everybody was kind of just slowly getting sort of sarcastic. And
yeah. Speaking of that, there was sort of just this apathetic teenager walking around, and this Renaissance dude, a minstrel dude, comes up to him and goes, "Face it, you'd rather be at home playing World of Warcraft." I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
huzzah to you, good sir.
Thank you, and also to you. And speaking of medieval gaming,
yeah, my geek experience this week is one that's probably been long overdue. I played my first game of Dungeons and Dragons.
There it is.
Which to some people now a dark cloud looms over my head.
Have you contemplated suicide yet?
No.
Okay.
I've yet to reach that level. I think it's around level 40 that you start to really get it.
Oh, okay.
But for now I'm a level 6 dwarf.
Of course. I knew you'd be a dwarf somehow.
I used my World of Warcraft handle, which is Gruntle.
Yep.
I enjoyed it, but something I learned is always respect your dungeon master, because too many of the players that I was playing with would just completely derail the adventure.
Yes.
The dungeon master would be halfway through explaining the setting, and they would just immediately be like, "Oh, check for evil. Don't move." Laughing.
I've seen this.
Trying to be dungeon master themselves, essentially. And I'm just let him finish. Let's play along, not just play up ourselves.
Well, it takes you back to when we were kids, and we would say, well, there's got to be a backstory behind why we're all Ninja Turtles or whatever.
Right.
Why we're all ninjas, and then they would go, no, really, we don't have to have that. We could just fight as ninjas.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'd say, no, we have to know.
A strange man walks into the bar and leaves a letter there, and then we're like, oh, can we follow the man? Who is the man? Let's find out about the man. And our dungeon master was literally no, the one-dimensional plot device has left the bar.
Nice. I think the whole thing is going to revolve around who your dungeon master is, whether they are, respectful, whether the players are respectful. There's a whole, sort of almost etiquette.
Yeah, really, and I can see why some people prefer the people who show up wearing wizard hats, because they're going to take it serious.
Exactly.
So far I've had fun. I really have no clue still what I'm doing. I'm just kind of being helped along and
wandering, looking for stringed vulture meat.
Exactly. We spent like 2 hours just working on character sheets, and mine's not even completely filled out. So we'll see how it becomes. But yeah, always on the lookout for stinged vulture meat.
I think you mispronounced that. I think it was stringed.
It was stringed.
Or stringed.
Stringed vulture meat. And I was like, stinged vulture meat. Yum.
Yeah. You know what? I like stinged better.
Way better.
So there it is, folks.
There it is.
Geekiness has risen one level. We're now +1 in geekiness. And we will turn now to the world of geek news.
Yes.
Every week, we like to share our favorite news stories. And this week, Rob, what interested you?
Edge magazine ran some statistics on the PSP.
That's the PlayStation Portable.
Exactly. When the PlayStation Portable came out in 2005, it had 72 third-party titles. It then spiked up in 2006, dropped a little in 2007, but now it's been losing its third-party developers at a pretty drastic rate.
Okay.
The PSP is dying, is basically what I'm getting at, or it looks like it's dying. And I just want to talk about this with you because we were so excited when this thing first came out. It seemed like the ultimate, hands down, was going to cream the DS with its stupid 2 screens.
Yeah, I mean, the time when we saw the news that Nintendo was going to have 2 separate screens instead of one large screen,
yeah,
I was like, well, that's it. They have just put a gun to their head, and this Sony product, which, gosh, it fell out of the future. I mean,
right.
The PSP, it's dated a little bit now, but still, that technology, that is serious for a pocket-sized platform.
It's comparable to the PlayStation 2. I don't know. I'm saying, like, watching these statistics fall, it looks like that by 2010, I mean, we might be seeing, like, some PSPs and some bargain bins.
It's the thing that analysts would never have thought. Sony always seemed to have their ducks in a row. What do you attribute Nintendo winning out over Sony on all of these fronts?
You know what it comes down to is, honestly, gameplay.
Yeah.
The touchscreen was something unique that could only be done on a handheld.
Right.
It didn't matter that the graphics weren't up to par. You were getting an experience, like with Nintendogs especially and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah.
You're like, you can't get that. Even on the Wii, you can't like have that tactile feeling of like petting an animal or something.
Yeah, that's what they call a killer app,
Right.
I mean, I don't travel that much, so I don't need a portable system of any kind, but if it was going to be one, I guess it wouldn't be this one.
No, not for me either. All right, well, moving on. You had some news that interested you this week.
Yeah, for me, some of the biggest news was Microsoft launching its I'm a PC ad campaign.
Yeah. This was also going to be my news story.
Oh, cool.
My second news story.
There you go.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Woo!
So yeah, most people have probably seen by now the Microsoft Bill Gates / Seinfeld ads, which leaves many people bewildered and confused about what the point is. But these ones are much more direct.
Yes.
Basically, the idea here is I'm a PC. And you see a wide spectrum of types of users. There's celebrities. You got Deepak Chopra in there. You got Eva Longoria in there. You've got NASA astronauts, hippies. I thought it was interesting. They point out a Obama supporter and then immediately a McCain supporter.
Yeah.
So this is definitely Microsoft's answer to the sort of
I'm a Mac, I'm a PC.
Yeah, the stereotyping of a PC user as the John Hodgman, Bill Gates looking guy.
Right.
And, this is something that, as a PC user myself, everybody already knows that the masses use PCs. There's a million types of pirate hacker types and business types, and I think this is actually a wise move for Microsoft to point out that it's not so clear cut.
It's a very good move. I agree. I mean, one way it kind of seems a bit reactionary, like
it definitely is.
Usually isn't the smartest move because it makes your guy automatically be second to what the first ad campaign was.
That's right. Yeah.
So
yeah, it probably will have that effect too. If people going, okay, so now you're scared of Apple. I mean, in some small sense, they are.
Yeah.
Because Apple's gaining a lot of market share. And, I do have to say, not to sound immature, but Apple sort of started it, because they chose this, what's known in formal logic as ad hominem approach to arguing, which is that guy is dumb. It's not we have a superior product. It's not, whatever. It's just that guy looks stupid, he's ugly, and he's silly.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, one of the cheapest forms of arguing, but also one of the most powerful. And I think Microsoft would like to say, hey, Vista's good, or hey, this is, which they've tried, but they know at the end of the day, as juvenile as it sounds, it has an effect. So I think they've had to come back and say, well, here's what we look like, you know?
Yeah, they managed to take something which is actually kind of an immature sort of spat and actually say, you know what, PCs are used by all types of people around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, this does not mean that Windows is good. This does not mean that PCs are good. But what it does mean is that you're not going to be able to just simply erase it as the platform of the business savvy. But I hope that Apple will start to tout its features, because honestly, I think that's where they have the most power.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that this commercial does more than anything is it's going to have to cause Apple to answer by creating a new form of ad campaign. It can't keep relying on these, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, because now people are going to watch that and just say, well, it's a stereotype. Not all PCs are like that. You know, it's at least going to be in the back of their head.
Yeah, we'll have to see where Apple goes from here.
Yep.
And that is Geek News for this week.
Hooray.
So now, let's move into our main topic of discussion, which this week is about television.
Television, you say?
Fall is officially upon us. As of Monday, the fall premieres have begun. And this week we're going to discuss one of the big ones, which is Heroes Season 3. Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
The autumnal equinox has arrived, and with it brought... television.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heroes Season 3 has begun. There was basically a 3-hour special.
Oh my gosh.
1 hour of, yay, we're heroes and everybody loves us and here's what has happened.
It was like a pre-Oscar show. Really weird.
Right, and kind of staged by the look of it.
Yeah.
I did like the shirts that said, I shot blankety blankety. Spoilers are not welcome here.
Sure. Yeah, and you are the Heroes watcher in this group.
Right. I mean, at least the first season was really, really strong. I still highly recommend just buying that season because it's a full story that wraps up in the last episode.
I agree.
Second season kind of was weaker than the first one. And
yeah, that is where I jumped off the ship.
You jumped off. I stayed on and felt that it got better towards the end. And so here we are. Season 3 starts off. And, well, Brad, what do you think of it?
Well, I mean, just to real briefly say, Heroes is about superheroes.
Yes.
And that's what really dragged me into Season 1, is that sense of discovering all of these fascinating characters. I mean, there's the guy who can fly, the guy who can read minds, you know, the guy who can,
paint the future, the guy who can travel through time.
And the girl who's invincible. I mean, there was so many cool characters to discover, and, you know, I sort of notoriously lost at the beginning of Heroes because I was like, okay, this show, Heroes, is showing you how you can have new things happen every episode, major events, and Lost is just sort of dragging us along like we don't really know what the heck we're doing. Come Season 2, I sort of flip-flopped and said, okay, now Heroes is dragging us along.
Yeah.
So what does this do for me? Well, I'd say it's okay.
Okay.
I think there's just enough here, and I'm trying to be charitable, I think there's just enough here to keep me possibly watching the next one. On the good side, the effects were very good. There was a character that can run really fast, and a guy that got frozen. That was actually a really nice, I thought, special effect. So the production values were good. I did find it interesting that there are villains. That is sort of the theme of this season.
Right.
But there's some bad things about this episode. One is the sort of central point of the episode is that there is this formula that, when used in the future, can kill all of humanity. That felt a lot like Season 1 to me, just sort of rehashing the, hey, we gotta save the world again.
And Season 2, which was there's a virus that you have to stop,
Yeah, I am not down with that. And to sum up my opinion here, I think it's especially telling when one of the characters' actions are basically directly lifted from the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And I'm not just talking about one part, I'm talking about like the entire scenes from The Fly were lifted, whole cloth. That's not encouraging. So there's a little bit there, but disappointed for the most part in Heroes Season 3.
It's a season premiere, so this is the time to have all the big plot events, occur. But honestly, they kind of feel slapdash. They're just like, all right, and this guy shows up, and he has powers.
There was a heck of a lot of powers in this episode.
Which makes me sick. Let me tell you something. I feel like NBC doesn't know what it has with this show, and I felt like that ever since the first season. Their ad campaign with Save the Cheerleaders, Save the World was lousy because it wasn't supposed to be something that made sense or that sounded cool,
Right.
It was something that was supposed to sound crazy. And the fact that they tried to really amp it up in the commercials and make like slogans out of it and stuff, it's like NBC didn't realize why people liked it. They just knew that people liked it. And they're like, maybe if we put this out there, more people get there. It's the same with like the powers. Like the powers are like what the equivalent of what George Lucas did with lightsabers in Episode 3.
Right.
They just keep. Everybody freaking is getting powers, and I don't want that. I want all right, some people stay normal. They're exceptional individuals nonetheless.
Right.
I'm not going to watch to find out, who's the next person with the big power. I want the plot. I want the story to be told,
This is the classic problem of sequels, and not that this is... I mean, in a sense, this is a sequel.
It feels like a sequel. Yeah, it really feels like that.
Okay, there's a lazy way to make a sequel, which is give them more of the same. A.K.A. Matrix 2, 100 Agent Smiths now. Woo-hoo-hoo, versus Empire Strikes Back, which is now things are different,
And what I was excited about this season because, like you said, it's called Villains, which I think is really kind of tapping into what people have been crying out for since this show came on, which is like superhero battles,
Right.
People really want to see battles. Since the first season, we were teased over and over again with Peter Petrelli versus Sylar. Like 3 times we thought that was going to happen, and it never really did. And like we want to see this guy versus this guy go. Who wins, Just, I guess from the geek perspective, I know like that's not necessarily story development, but I'm kind of hoping that they at least can deliver on something like that.
Right.
It, like you said, it feels like a sequel that wasn't supposed to be, and that should never be the case with a television series. They should always be anticipating 2 seasons down the road what they're going to be doing and why this is happening now. But right now it doesn't feel like that.
There's some thoughts on Heroes for you. I don't know if we've really encouraged people. I mean, but honestly, I am looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'm really hoping they get their act together and return to story-by-story elements of the first season.
Yeah, and I just want to tell people to keep their eyes out. Me and my roommate, DJ, are planning on working on a podcast to actually discuss these episodes in further, more spoiler-riddled details. So that'll be going on at, I think that's nerdlives.com.
Yeah. So that's about wraps it up for our main topic of discussion. And before we close our show, we always like to get a little nostalgic. And this week we're going to keep it nice and short, but I just have a trivia question for you here. We all are looking forward to Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe.
Of course.
The latest generation of console Mortal Kombat games. However, I want to rewind to a time when Mortal Kombat was not always found at home. And a day, September 13th, 1993... Do you remember what you were doing on that day?
Oh, yes. That was Mortal Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
The day that Mortal Kombat came out on home consoles was called Mortal Monday.
Yeah.
I went into school so excited. It's Mortal Monday! And I was expecting, man, everybody's going to be going crazy. And I went in there and nobody gave a flip. As happens sometimes when you're growing up geek, not everybody cares.
The geek cries alone.
You can play an arcade perfect version of Mortal Kombat, the first game, on Mortal Kombat Deception for Xbox and PS2, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm playing that now and enjoying it. Anyway, that is Mortal Monday. Just a little blast from the past there for you. So if you've grown up geek like us and you want to send us an email and tell us about it, you can. Our email address is mail@growing-up-geek.com. I think that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you all for listening. Once again, my name is Brad.
Huzzah!
And we'll see you next week.